Welcome. In this video, I'll provide a brief overview from Chapter 34 of your own cooking textbook on custards, creams, frozen desserts, and dessert sauces. We'll start with custards. By definition, a custard is any liquid that is thickened by the coagulation of eggs, thickened by eggs cooking. There are two types of custards, stirred custards and baked custards. Your stirred custards are cooked on the stovetop. They are stirred as they're cooked and end up in a pudding-like substance, so it's soft, rich, and creamy. Your baked custards, then, are firm. You're going to bake them generally in a water bath, but they're firm enough that you can either unmold them or leave them in the dishes that they're served in. Let's talk first about a couple common stirred custards. First, we'll start with the crème anglaise. I've included a video for you to watch after this as well on a demonstration on crème anglaise, which is just a vanilla custard sauce. You start off with your yolks and some sugar, and you beat them to a light pale yellow ribbon stage, and you're heating or scalding your milk or cream with some vanilla. Then you would do a very important technique called tempering. You would take your hot cream and you would incorporate them very slowly into your yolk and sugar mixture, slow enough to allow those eggs to rise up to the temperature that the milk or cream is at, but by not scalding it or overcooking those eggs. You then will have to take it back to the stovetop, and by stirring constantly, heat it until those eggs are just cooked to thicken the sauce enough to coat the back of a spoon. You will then remove it and chill it. And typically your crème anglaise is served cold or could be kept warm and served hot as well. Your pastry cream. Pastry cream is very commonly used to fill cream puffs. Pastry cream is different than crème anglaise because you do have cornstarch. You have a starch in there. Some recipes will call for flour. But you will do the same process of heating your milk. Separately, you will have your eggs and sugar and cornstarch all combined well. And then you're going to slowly temper your cold egg mixture with your hot milk, bring it all back together onto the stovetop, and actually bring it to a boil. At this point, we need to bring it to a boil so that the cornstarch can fully be activated. It will be very thick at this point. You'll pull it off, add the vanilla, a lot of times some extra butter at that point, and then strain it off. It is important to strain your custards, because if you have any particles of cooked egg in there, you want to make sure that you're eliminating them in the final product. The crème anglaise is very important to strain as well. Your pastry cream at this point will be a hot, thick pudding. It's important to cool it down with plastic wrap pressed right against it so it doesn't form a film. Once it's cooled and going in products like your pastry or your cream puffs, it's nice to maybe fold in some whipped cream. So that would be called a mousseline whenever you're lightening up a pastry cream product to, again, adding in and folding in some whipped cream. It really makes the cream lighter, fluffier, but still has that great flavor with it. Lemon curd that I have pictured on the far right here is really taking a fresh lemon juice. And you could do this with any different citrus products, but it's important that it's a nice fresh juice. You have yolks, sugar, cornstarch, some actual zest there as well. You combine this all on the stovetop, bring it to a boil again to fully activate that cornstarch. Then you'll strain it off and have a nice smooth lemon curd. A zabagnon is one of my favorites, as I really enjoy a tiramisu here. This tiramisu is generally made with a zabagnon, which is made with marsala wine, egg yolks, and sugar. And you're heating that up over the stovetop, over a double broiler or water bath. So it's gently heating it up, and you're whipping up this mixture. Once I have no more liquid and there's all this nice creamy foamy product, I then pull it off and let it cool. I can then fold in some whipped cream and have my basic zabagnon. But for my tiramisu filling, I like to also incorporate some mascarpone cheese. A classic zabagnon can be just served over a fresh bowl of fruit. Again, stirred custards are going to be stirred as they're cooked and cooked over the stovetop. So then into the other category of custards, which will be baked. We have a creme caramel, or a flan, as they are commonly referred to, although they do differ. The creme caramel is where a caramel is made at the bottom of your ramekin or whatever your dish would be that you are baking it in. You form your custard on top, bake it, and then when you go to serve it, you slightly warm the bottom of it so that you can invert the entire custard out onto a plate and have that nice caramel on top there. We have a creme brulee, which means burnt cream, so it does have that sugar layer on top, and then a torch is used to gently caramelize that sugar. Creme brulee is one of my go-to desserts as a super simple one with a few ingredients. You take egg yolks, and then you have your sugar and generally vanilla extract added in there, or vanilla paste. You mix that in a bowl, you heat up your cream separately to that scalding point, temper the two together, strain it out nicely, put it into your molds, and bake it in a water bath. Let those cool, and then you're going to sprinkle the sugar over the top and caramelize it with a torch. A cheesecake, another favorite. Here you're generally taking cream cheese with sugar and eggs. The more eggs and the more air you incorporate it, the lighter your cheesecake will be. Generally it's served on a graham cracker crust. We also have bread pudding as a baked custard here. Nice pieces of bread, usually, leftover pieces of stale bread mixed together with a creamy egg mixture that just surrounds and engulfs this bread and makes a nice fluffy, although dense, bread pudding that you can top with so many different flavors and really makes for a delicious dessert and a great way to utilize extra products. There is rice pudding as well, which is a form of custard, although the rice does give off a lot of thickening itself, or a lot of starch itself to thicken up the pudding. So it doesn't need as much eggs, but it still is considered a baked custard. Your quiches then. Here I have a picture of a nice vegetable quiche. Your quiches are going to be formed into your pie shells, and you're going to add your products to it and bake it all in once. So that was an example we had of a baked pie. Now here it is also an example of a baked custard. Soufflés, I have a picture of a chocolate soufflé on the bottom right. This is a custard where you're actually whipping egg whites and folding them in. So it really traps a lot of air into it. And as you can see in these ramekins, as it bakes, it puffs up. And it actually has that really, really nice appearance that stays, unfortunately, only for a short time. So generally they're going to be baked to order. Moving on into our creams. Creme chantilly, listed first, is really just a form of slightly sweetened whipped cream. So you're taking heavy cream or heavy whipping cream. It's important that it is at least 32% fat in order to incorporate air well. The colder the heavy cream, the quicker it will incorporate air and get nice stiff peaks for you. Be careful though, if you over whip it, you will make butter. Bavarian cream is where you are scalding your milk or cream, you have your yolks, sugar, and you're tempering the two together. You basically are making your creme anglaise. You then are adding your vanilla, you're pulling it off the stovetop. You are using gelatin, we talked about that in an earlier chapter, and then you are letting it cool down to a certain point and folding in your whipped cream, then quickly forming it into your different molds and letting it completely gel, solidify in the cooler until ready to plate. Your chiffons then are very similar to that, only that it has a fruit base. And here I have a picture of a lemon chiffon where it's a lemon custard similar to, let's say, our lemon curd, where then you will fold in those whipped egg whites. Again, generally it's going to be molded so that it can hold that air in there without being disrupted. And then our mousse. One of these little tricks is using marshmallows in order to kind of incorporate and get that airy texture that you get from your egg whites. But typically your classical mousses will have whipped egg whites, and it's important to make sure that you're using pasteurized egg whites for that. Some will have whipped cream folded into it. Some may have gelatin. Your basic mousses, again, could be just a couple simple ingredients. Frozen desserts include your ice cream, your gelato, sorbet, sherbet, and your semifritos. In frozen desserts, it's important to note that flavors dull as they cool. So as you're making your bases. Keep this in mind. Also, alcohols that you may use as flavorings actually lower the temperature that the product needs to be in order to properly freeze. So you don't want to have an excessive use of alcohol, knowing this would change your end product. For ice creams, it's important to note overrun. This is referring to how much air is incorporated into a product. Take water. If you freeze water, you have a block of ice. It is a solid block. If you were to take, say, strawberries, puree them, and freeze them, you have now a block of strawberries. So the idea is that as we are freezing this product, we need to incorporate air into it. And in order to keep that air into it, it's important to have some fat in that product. So similar to our whipped cream, we need 32% milk fat in order to really incorporate that air. However, there's a lot of different varieties. You'll notice there's a French-style ice cream that has yolks in it for more fat. There's more of a gelato style that has even less milk fat. So it ends up being a denser product because it's not able to incorporate as much air. Regardless, it's important that some air is incorporated while it's freezing. Sorbets then differ from ice cream in that they're fruit juice based. There is no heavy cream in there. If you're adding any milk to it, it now becomes sherbet. With sorbets, if there's too much sugar in it, it will become very hard and crumbly, grainy. If there's too little sugar, then it will become soft and more syrupy. So it's important to find the right balance, and if you're using fresh fruit, this could certainly vary depending on the ripeness. Semi-fruity then refer to your basic desserts that then are frozen. So you have your mousses, your custards, your creams, your soufflés. And lastly, your dessert sauces. There are fruit purees, which are called coulis, that could be made with just about any type of fruit. You heat up the fruit in a saucepan with some type of liquid. It could be a liqueur, it could be water. You want to add some sugar, again, depending on the sweetness of your fruit already. You could add some other flavoring components, but you're heating it up to soften that fruit, pureeing it then with an immersion blender or Vitamix, and then straining it out. Be careful, depending on what fruit you pick, there could be a lot of little seeds, such as a blackberry. You could be there a long time straining that out. That's your basic coulis. If it's too thin, you can heat it back up and add a cornstarch slurry to it. If it is too thick, you can certainly add a little moisture to it, but make sure that you adjust the flavoring. Lemon a lot of times will bring out that natural flavor like salt does for savory food. Your caramel sauce. Caramel sauce is made with basically cooking sugar to the point of caramelizing it, and then removing it from the heat and adding in some cream or some butter, cream or milk I should say, and then finishing off with some butter. I'll show you a video here shortly. Chocolate sauce then is where you can heat up heavy cream, your basic chocolate sauce, but you could also double up as a ganache. You heat up your heavy cream and add chocolate to it once you remove it from the stovetop, stirring to completely melt down that chocolate. And you have your basic chocolate sauce. This doesn't work so well if you're going to cool it down. However, as a nice, warm, fresh sauce, it works great. And then your crème anglaise that we have mentioned many times throughout this video, which again is the base for ice cream. It could be the base for your Bavarian cream. It could be the base for a lot of different products. Remember, it's important with the crème anglaise that it does not have any starch in it. So if you cook it to the point of almost ready to boil, your eggs will overcook and curdle by the time you get that product right out of that pan. It's also important with your caramel and with your other products that you remove it from the pan as soon as possible so that it doesn't continue to cook and caramelize even further. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you.